The stars were quiet, but the silence felt heavy, almost as if the universe itself was waiting for something to happen. Far away from Earth, at the edge of a forgotten star system, an enormous fleet of ships floated in formation. Each ship belonged to a different world, different species, but all of them had gathered for one reason: to face humanity. For years the galaxy had whispered stories about the humans. They came from a death world, a place that shaped them into survivors, strong and unpredictable. Some alien nations feared them, others hated them, but all agreed on one thing: if humanity was left unchecked, they could rise to challenge even the oldest empires. And so an alliance was formed, a coalition of species that rarely trusted one another, now united by the goal of crushing Earth before it grew too strong. On the command decks of alien warships, leaders stood in silence, staring at the dark void ahead. Their fleets stretched across the stars like a wall of steel and firepower. It was said to be the largest gathering of ships in centuries, thousands upon thousands of vessels, all armed with the finest weapons their civilizations had ever built. Energy cannons hummed, missile bays were loaded, shields glowed faintly as they prepared for the inevitable clash. They expected Earth to answer with a fleet of its own. They believed humanity would bring every ship it could muster, every pilot willing to fight, every weapon Earth had designed. The aliens imagined the coming battle as something legendary, a war that would decide the future of the galaxy. Some even looked forward to it, eager to prove that humans were not as dangerous as the rumors claimed. But behind their confidence, there was also fear. Stories had already reached them. Tales of human endurance, how these creatures could survive on worlds where others perished. Accounts of their wars, how they fought not just with technology but with an unyielding spirit that seemed to defy reason. And then there was the strangest thing of all. The humans never seemed to fight alone. Even when they stood outnumbered, their courage made it feel as if more were standing beside them, unseen but present. The coalition ignored these whispers. Fear, they told themselves, was just weakness. With numbers on their side, no human trick or story could matter. And so they waited. Time passed slowly in the void. Some commanders grew impatient. Others ran endless simulations, calculating the many ways the humans might attack. A few even wondered if Earth would dare to show up at all. But deep inside, they all believed that humanity would come. And when it did, the galaxy would shake with the clash of two great forces. Then, at last, sensors detected movement. Something was approaching. The fleet prepared itself. Weapons powered up. Shields strengthened. Entire battle groups shifted formation, ready to fire at a moment's notice. Commanders gave short, sharp orders, their voices tight with focus. Finally, after weeks of waiting, the humans had arrived. But when the first image appeared on their screens, disbelief spread through every command deck. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't hundreds of ships. It wasn't even dozens. It was just one. A single human ship drifted into the star system, calm and steady, its engines glowing softly against the blackness of space. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was so deep it felt unreal. Had their scanners malfunctioned? Was this some kind of trick? Surely, humanity could not be foolish enough to send only one ship against thousands. Laughter broke out on several bridges. Alien captains shook their heads, mocking the arrogance of these humans. "Do they think so little of us?" One commander sneered. "Do they believe one ship can stand against an armada?" Another voice joined in. "Perhaps Earth is weaker than we thought. Perhaps all the stories were nothing but lies." But not everyone laughed. A few of the older commanders narrowed their eyes. Something about the sight of that lone vessel unsettled them. It moved with no fear, no hesitation. There was no rush in its approach, no sign of weakness or panic. It was as if the ship knew exactly what it was doing, as if it belonged there, facing down thousands without a trace of doubt. Whispers spread through the alien crews. Some believed it was a decoy, meant to lure them into a trap. Others thought it carried a new kind of weapon, something so powerful it didn't need support. A few even wondered if the humans were mocking them, sending one ship simply to insult the entire coalition. As the debates grew louder, a transmission flickered to life. The human ship was broadcasting. Every alien commander leaned closer, expecting threats or demands. But what came through was something else entirely. A calm voice, steady and unshaken, spoke only 3 words. "We are enough." No shouting, no arrogance, just certainty. The words spread like wildfire across the fleet. Crew members repeated them to one another, some laughing, others unsettled. "We are enough." How could 3 simple words feel so heavy? It was as if the entire weight of humanity's history, its struggles and triumphs, was carried inside that one sentence. The coalition didn't know how to react. Some pushed for immediate attack, convinced the humans were bluffing. Others hesitated, wary of the unknown. If Earth truly believed one ship could face thousands, then perhaps there was something hidden, something they had not yet understood. And so the massive fleet, armed with more firepower than entire worlds, sat frozen in place, staring at a single ship that refused to retreat. For the humans, this was not just another encounter. This was a message, a statement that size and numbers meant little compared to resolve, that humanity would not bow, no matter how overwhelming the odds. In the dark silence of space, a strange truth revealed itself. Not through a grand battle, not through destruction, but through the courage of one ship daring to stand alone. The coalition had expected a war. What they got instead was a lesson that would echo far beyond that star system. And though the battle had not yet begun, every alien present could already feel it. Something had changed. The single human ship hung in the darkness like a shadow that refused to move. All around it, the alien fleet stretched for miles, glowing with energy, shields shimmering, weapons ready to fire. It looked like a wall of power, a storm waiting to break loose. Yet that one small ship floated calmly, its lights steady, its engines humming at a soft rhythm as if it had nothing to fear. Inside the alien fleet, confusion grew stronger with every passing minute. Commanders barked questions at their crews. Was this really all that humanity had sent? Could their sensors be wrong? Ships scanned the human vessel again and again, searching for hidden allies, cloaked warships, or some kind of massive trap waiting just outside their range. But every report came back the same. There was only one ship. At first, many treated it as a joke. On one command deck, an officer laughed so hard his voice echoed across the room. He couldn't believe it. "One ship against thousands," he said, shaking his head. "These humans must truly be fools." His commander joined in the laughter, calling the humans arrogant, reckless, and naive. Around the fleet, similar voices rose. Mockery, ridicule, and amusement. The idea that a single vessel would dare to stand before such an armada seemed ridiculous, but not everyone laughed. Some stared at the screens in silence, their eyes narrowing. They remembered stories that had spread through the galaxy, stories of what humans had done in the past. They remembered hearing about their strange bravery, their stubbornness, their ability to fight long after others would have given up. And they wondered if perhaps there was more to this lone ship than it seemed. The voice that had come through earlier, calm, steady, and almost too certain, still lingered in their minds. "We are enough." 3 words, yet the weight of them pressed down like invisible gravity. Some aliens tried to brush it off, but deep inside they felt unease. How could a species facing thousands say such a thing without hesitation? The fleet waited for the human ship to move, to attack, or to retreat, but it did none of those things. It simply floated there, silent and unshaken, as if daring the coalition to make the first move. Finally, a group of impatient commanders demanded action. They wanted to test this so-called courage, to prove the humans were only bluffing. Orders went out and a small squadron broke formation. Sleek ships with sharp wings and glowing cannons rushed forward, cutting through the dark. Their engines blazed and their weapons locked on the lone human vessel. All across the fleet, eyes watched the coming clash. Crew members leaned closer to their screens, waiting to see the human ship blasted into pieces. Whispers filled the air, some predicting a swift victory, others wondering if something strange was about to happen. The attacking squadron fired. Beams of light streaked across the void, cutting through the emptiness at impossible speed. Missiles followed, spiraling toward the human vessel. It should have been the end. No ship could survive such a barrage, not without shields collapsing and hulls tearing apart. But when the light cleared, the human ship was still there, untouched. Gasps filled alien command decks. Officers checked their systems, convinced their weapons had malfunctioned. Yet the data showed the truth. Every shot had been redirected, every missile had missed. It was as if the human ship had danced between them, slipping through the smallest gaps, moving faster than their eyes could track. The squadron tried again, this time spreading out, attacking from different angles. But the human vessel moved like water, flowing effortlessly, avoiding every strike with a precision that seemed impossible. It didn't fire back. It didn't destroy its attackers. It only moved, slipping past their weapons as though the laws of physics bent in its favor. On the bridges of the alien ships, silence fell. The mocking laughter from earlier was gone. Now there was only unease, a creeping realization that something was terribly wrong. This wasn't weakness. This wasn't arrogance. This was control. The humans hadn't come with an army because they didn't need one. The squadron retreated, shaken and humiliated. Their ships returned to the safety of the formation, weapons still hot, but their pride burned away. They had faced one human ship and had been made to look powerless. Across the coalition, doubt spread like cracks in glass. Officers whispered to one another, their voices trembling. "How did they do that?" Some asked. "What kind of ship is that?" Others demanded. No one had an answer. The human vessel remained silent. It didn't chase the retreating squadron. It didn't boast. It only hovered there, calm and watchful, its presence heavier than an entire fleet. For the first time, some alien commanders began to feel fear. They realized they had no idea what humanity had built, what kind of technology or strategy they possessed. They had come expecting to fight numbers with numbers, firepower with firepower. But what they faced was something else entirely, something beyond their understanding. Still, pride held the fleet together. Many refused to admit their fear. They shouted louder, ordering more scans, preparing new battle plans. They convinced themselves that the humans must be hiding tricks, illusions, or secret reinforcements. They told their crews that the lone ship could not possibly defeat an entire armada. And yet, deep in their hearts, a shadow of doubt refused to leave. The soldiers, the officers, even the civilians who had been brought to witness the great battle, all of them now spoke in hushed tones about the human ship. No one dared to laugh anymore. No one mocked. Even those who still believed in victory felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down. For the humans aboard that single vessel, nothing had changed. Their mission was not to destroy, but to show. To stand before thousands and prove that fear could not break them. That courage and resolve mattered more than numbers. And as the alien fleet stared at them, uncertain and shaken, the humans knew their message was already working. The coalition had gathered expecting a war of destruction. Instead, they were given a glimpse of something far more dangerous than weapons. Humanity's unshakable belief that even one could stand against many. The void stretched wide and silent once more. But the silence had changed. It was no longer the calm before battle. It was the silence of doubt, of fear, of respect beginning to grow in the hearts of those who once thought themselves unchallenged. The fleet had expected a grand clash. What they received instead was a lesson. And though the human ship said no more, its presence continued to speak louder than any words could. The aliens were starting to realize that this was not a battle of numbers. This was a battle of will, and the humans were not losing. The single human ship stayed steady, glowing faintly in the darkness while the massive alien fleet shifted restlessly. The first test had already ended in embarrassment for the coalition. Their squadron had attacked with full confidence, but they returned humiliated, unable to even scratch the human vessel. And what unsettled the entire fleet even more was the fact that the humans hadn't fired a single shot. That silence was heavy. It felt like an unspoken challenge. The commanders argued with one another. Some demanded another wave of attacks, larger and stronger this time. Others urged patience, insisting they study the human ship more carefully before wasting more firepower. A few even wondered if perhaps they had already lost, not through destruction but through fear that was creeping into their minds. In the middle of this tension, the human ship finally moved. Slowly, its engines brightened, and it began to drift closer to the fleet. No weapons were charged, no missiles launched. It didn't even seem to have shields raised. It simply moved with calm certainty, like a predator walking into a herd without any concern. The alien fleet tightened its formation. Thousands of weapons locked on, every targeting system tracking the lone ship. The commanders gave strict orders not to fire unless absolutely necessary. The embarrassment of the failed first strike still hung over them, and no one wanted to make the same mistake twice. As the human vessel came closer, strange things began to happen. Alien sensors flickered. Readings grew distorted. Distances appeared wrong. Some ships reported the human vessel moving faster than light, then slower than a drifting rock, all within the same scan. Others swore it was multiplying, as if there were dozens of copies flickering in and out of sight. Confusion spread quickly. Technicians shouted at their instruments, certain that something was interfering with their systems. But no matter how many times they recalibrated, the results were the same. The human ship simply refused to behave like anything they had seen before. And then, without warning, the ship vanished. Gasps erupted across the fleet. Alarms blared. Commanders demanded reports. Where had it gone? Had it cloaked? Had it jumped away? Every scanner scrambled, searching the void for the missing target. Panic stirred in voices that only minutes ago had been confident. Moments later, the human ship reappeared, this time much closer. Too close. It was now inside the formation, drifting between two massive battleships completely untouched. The aliens watching through their windows saw it with their own eyes, small but fearless like a shadow, that had slipped through locked doors without knocking. No one had seen it arrive. No warning had been given. Somehow it had passed through layers of defenses, past thousands of scanners and weapons without being detected until it wanted to be seen. The fleet froze. Weapon systems locked on again, but hesitation gripped every finger hovering over the trigger. If the humans could move like this, what else were they capable of? To prove its point, the human vessel performed another demonstration. It didn't fire any weapons. Instead, it targeted one of the alien cruisers nearby. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the cruiser's lights flickered and dimmed. Its weapons shut down. Its engines powered off. Its shields collapsed. The massive warship drifted helplessly, silent and dark, its crew shouting in confusion. They hadn't been damaged, no holes, no explosions. Their systems had simply stopped, and just as quickly, the human ship restored them. Lights returned, engines hummed again, weapons came back online. It was as if humanity was saying, "We could have destroyed you." But we chose not to, the alien crews whispered in fear. They had never seen technology like this. Disabling a ship without firing a single shot, then restoring it as if nothing had happened. It was beyond their understanding. A few commanders still clung to pride. They shouted angrily, calling the demonstration a trick, some kind of illusion. They ordered another group of ships to surround the human vessel, determined to crush it once and for all. Dozens of alien ships moved in, surrounding the human vessel from every direction. Energy cannons lit up, missiles armed themselves, torpedoes locked into position. This time they wouldn't miss. The order was given. Dozens of ships fired at once, filling the void with blazing light and explosive energy. The combined force could have shattered a small moon. It should have reduced the human vessel to dust in seconds. But when the light faded, the ship was still there, unharmed, untouched. The aliens stared in disbelief. Their weapons had struck true, yet the ship hadn't even flinched. Some swore they had seen their blast bend away at the last moment. Others insisted the weapons had simply passed through empty space, as if the human ship hadn't been there at all. Then the humans made their second move. With a single pulse of energy, invisible but undeniable, every alien weapon pointed at the human ship powered down. Cannons shut off. Missiles froze. Torpedoes went dead in their tubes. Thousands of ships armed with enough firepower to destroy planets had just been silenced by one vessel. Across the fleet, terror began to replace anger. Soldiers who had once laughed now sat pale and silent at their stations. Officers exchanged uneasy glances. Commanders clenched their fists, trying to hide the fear creeping into their eyes. And still, the human vessel did not attack. It didn't fire a single shot. It only floated among them, calm and unthreatened, as if daring them to try again. The message was clear. Humanity had the power to destroy them, but also the restraint not to. Some in the fleet began to see this not as arrogance, but as confidence, a quiet warning that Earth did not seek war, but would not hesitate to end one if forced. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. Thousands of ships floated in the dark, their weapons useless, their pride shattered. And in the middle of it all, one small ship glowed like a beacon. The coalition had come expecting a war of numbers. They had prepared for chaos, destruction, and bloodshed. But what they faced instead was something they couldn't understand. A single ship showing them that true strength wasn't in how many ships you commanded, but in how certain you were of victory before the first shot was fired. The fleet that had once felt unstoppable now felt fragile. Every alien on board understood, even if they refused to admit it out loud. This was not a battle they could win, and yet humanity still hadn't attacked. That was perhaps the most frightening part of all. The alien fleet floated in silence. Thousands of ships had gathered with fire and fury in their hearts, but now that fire felt smaller, dimmed by the presence of a single vessel, the humans had not fired once, yet they had made the most powerful coalition in the galaxy hesitate. That hesitation, more than anything, gnawed at the commanders. They had never been forced into silence like this before. Inside their bridges, voices rose in anger and fear. Some officers whispered about retreat. Others demanded another attempt, refusing to believe one ship could stand against so many. Commanders argued, their voices sharp, their pride stung. To retreat now would be to admit weakness, but to attack again might bring humiliation even greater than before. Then, without waiting for orders, one alien captain made a choice. His pride could not stand the thought of fear. He commanded his ship forward, charging straight toward the human vessel. His crew followed, though uneasily, their eyes flickering between their consoles and the dark shape ahead. The alien warship powered its cannons, beams glowing brighter and brighter until they burned like miniature suns. The fleet watched closely, some with dread, some with hope. If this captain succeeded, perhaps the balance could shift back to their favor. If he failed, the shadow of humanity would only grow larger. The alien ship fired. A massive surge of energy burst from its cannons, slamming into the human vessel. The explosion lit up the void, blinding for a moment. When the light cleared, everyone saw the truth. The human ship was still there, unbroken, unmoved, then calmly it answered. Not with a weapon, not with destruction, but with precision. A single pulse rippled outward. The alien warship that had attacked went silent. Its lights dimmed. Its weapons shut down. Its engines died. And then, as if to prove a point, the human vessel gently restarted its systems. The alien ship came back to life, unharmed, but powerless to deny what had happened. It was the second time humanity had shown this restraint, and the meaning was clear. They could destroy at will, but they chose not to. They didn't need to kill to prove their strength. Whispers swept through the fleet. This was not just about technology. This was something deeper, something that unsettled even the bravest soldiers. The humans were sending a message, one that echoed in every mind no matter how hard they tried to ignore it. We are stronger. We don't need to destroy you to prove it. For the first time, true fear spread across the fleet. Fear not just of losing, but of facing an opponent who fought with purpose, not pride. And yet there were still some who refused to accept it. Another group of ships moved in, this time coordinating their attack. They surrounded the human vessel, dozens of them working as one, their weapons blazing in unison. The display of power was immense. Explosions tore through the darkness. Light brighter than stars flared around the lone ship. But when it was over, the human vessel remained untouched. The alien crews sat frozen, their hands shaking above useless controls. The same question haunted every mind. How are they doing this? And then the human vessel acted again. It didn't strike at all of them, only one. A smaller frigate, quick and sharp, but now caught in the human's grasp. The frigate's systems shut down. Its weapons went dark. But this time, instead of restoring them immediately, the human vessel held the ship helpless for a long moment. On board, the alien crew panicked. They tried to restart systems, reroute power, anything to fight back, but nothing worked. They were trapped, and then, as quickly as it had begun, the frigate's systems flickered back to life. Engines roared. Shields hummed. Weapons recharged. The ship was fine. But the crew was shaken, their confidence shattered. That was the lesson the humans were teaching. They could take everything away in a single heartbeat, and then give it back just as easily. They weren't just stronger, they were in control. Around the fleet, fear turned to silence. No more laughter, no more mocking voices. Even the most prideful commanders struggled to hide the tremor in their tone when they gave orders. Soldiers avoided each other's eyes, unwilling to admit what they all felt. That their grand coalition, their countless ships, their overwhelming numbers, meant nothing before this single vessel, but something else began to grow among them too. Alongside the fear came respect, quiet, heavy respect. The aliens had come expecting to crush humanity, to prove once and for all that Earth was no threat. But now, after seeing what one human ship could do, many began to wonder if the stories had been true all along. The tales of resilience, of survival, of courage that defied reason. Perhaps humanity was not dangerous because of its weapons, but because of the unshakable belief that it could endure anything. For some, that respect was unbearable. Pride still burned, refusing to let go. A handful of commanders still pushed for one final assault, arguing that the humans must have limits, that the ship must fall if pressed hard enough. But others had already seen enough. They spoke carefully, their voices quieter, urging caution. They reminded the fleet that humanity had not destroyed a single ship, though they clearly could have. That restraint, they argued, was not weakness, it was strength. The debate raged quietly across the fleet, but the human vessel did not move. It hovered in silence, calm and patient, watching them like a teacher waiting for a lesson to sink in. And one by one, the realization spread. The humans were not here to fight. They were here to show that they didn't need to. A strange feeling swept through the alien crews. Fear still lingered, yes, but alongside it was something they had never expected to feel toward humanity: admiration. They had mocked Earth for being small, for being young, for being reckless. Yet here in this moment they saw something different. They saw a people who could stand before thousands without trembling, a people who fought without cruelty, who had the power to destroy but chose not to. The silence stretched on. No one ordered another attack. No one dared to move against the lone ship. Slowly, almost unwillingly, the fleet began to pull back, keeping their distance, not retreating yet but no longer pressing forward. The humans had not won through destruction. They had won through control, through courage, through a strength that numbers could not measure. And as the alien fleets drifted apart, whispers began to spread through their ranks, not of shame, not of anger, but of something much harder to deny: respect. For the first time, the coalition realized that humanity might not just be another species struggling to survive in the stars. Humanity might be something greater, something that could not be measured by fleets or firepower. The aliens had come expecting to break Earth. Instead, they had been humbled. And though the battle was not over, everyone knew that the galaxy had already changed. The alien fleet floated in uneasy silence. The Grand Armada that had once believed itself unstoppable now seemed unsure, caught between fear, anger, and a growing sense of respect. Their numbers still filled the sky, thousands upon thousands of ships glowing with energy. But none of that seemed to matter anymore. For in the center of it all, one human ship remained, calm and unshaken, as if it had already won without firing a single weapon. The aliens had expected a war. They had come ready to crush Earth, to overwhelm humanity with their sheer size. But instead of a bloody clash, they had been forced to witness something far stranger, something that unsettled them more deeply than any battle could. The humans had shown that they didn't need numbers. They didn't need destruction. They needed only one ship, one voice, and one message. That message still lingered in their minds. We are enough. For many, those words refused to leave. It was not arrogance they heard in that voice, it was conviction. A belief so strong that even thousands of warships couldn't shake it. The commanders argued endlessly, voices sharp with conflict. Some shouted that they should retreat, for they could not hope to win against such power. Others roared back that retreat would mean shame, that their worlds would mock them for bowing to humanity. A smaller group remained silent, staring at the single human vessel, trying to understand. And then, the human ship spoke again. This time, the voice was not just 3 words. It was calm, steady, almost gentle, yet it carried through the fleets like a wave rolling across the sea. We did not come here to destroy you. We did not come here to prove we are stronger. We came here to remind you that strength is not in numbers, but in how you use it. You gathered your ships to break us, but we stand unbroken. We are not here for war. We are here for peace. But know this: if you try to harm Earth, if you try to harm humanity, one will always be enough. The words rang out across every ship. Crews froze. Officers listened in silence. Even the proudest commanders could not deny the weight behind them. The humans were not shouting, not threatening, not boasting. They were speaking truth, and everyone could feel it. The alien fleet shifted uneasily. Some ships pulled farther back, their captains unwilling to stay so close. Others remained frozen, unsure what to do. The thought of attacking again felt pointless. They had seen what would happen. They would fail, and the humans would simply prove their control once more. In that silence, something remarkable happened. One alien commander, from one of the older species, lowered his weapons. His ship dimmed its shields, its cannons powered down, and he broadcasted his own message to the fleet. His voice was tired, weary, but firm. I came here to protect my people, not to waste their lives. We cannot win this fight, and I will not throw my crew into pointless death. If humanity says they do not seek war, then I will believe them. My ship will not fire. Gasps spread across the channels. A commander had just defied the coalition. But before the outrage could grow, another voice joined. Another ship lowered its weapons. And then another. Slowly, like cracks spreading through glass, the coalition began to break. One by one, ships powered down, their captains realizing what pride had refused to let them see. There was no battle here to be won. Not every commander agreed. Some still shouted in fury, demanding loyalty, demanding that the fleet hold its ground. But even their own crews began to hesitate, their hands frozen over controls, unwilling to fire. They had seen too much. They had felt too much. The human ship had not just defeated their weapons, it had defeated their will. Soon the grand fleet that had come to crush humanity began to scatter. Some ships jumped away, retreating to their homeworlds. Others lingered a little longer, staring at the lone vessel as if trying to understand it before leaving as well. The great armada that had once filled the stars with power slowly unraveled, until only silence remained. The human vessel stayed where it was. It didn't chase. It didn't boast. It simply watched, patient and steady until the last of the enemy ships had gone. Then slowly it turned back toward the void, its engines glowing softly, and began its journey home. For the humans aboard that ship, the mission had been clear from the beginning. They hadn't come to start a war. They had come to prevent one. And they had succeeded not through destruction but through something far stronger: resolve. News of the encounter spread quickly across the galaxy. Stories flew faster than any ship, carried by whispers and reports by frightened soldiers and humbled commanders. They told of a day when thousands of ships faced one, and one was enough. They told of a people who had shown that courage and conviction could be more powerful than any weapon. Some worlds were shaken by the news. They had once mocked humanity as weak, but now they looked at Earth with new respect. Others felt threatened, realizing that if one ship could stand against an armada, then humanity might soon rise higher than any of them had expected. But even those who still feared Earth could not deny the truth. They had seen something extraordinary, something that would be remembered for generations. For humanity, the meaning was simple. They had not just protected themselves, they had changed how the galaxy saw them. No longer were they seen as newcomers from a death world. No longer were they underestimated as reckless or fragile. They were now seen as something more. That day became a turning point. Where others had expected a war, humanity had shown peace. Where others had expected destruction, humanity had shown restraint. And where others had expected weakness, humanity had shown strength unlike anything they had known. The galaxy would remember the day when one ship faced thousands and stood unshaken. It would remember the voice that said, "We are enough." And Earth itself would carry the memory as a promise, that no matter how great the odds, no matter how many ships stood against them, humanity would never bow, never break, and never forget that even one could make a difference. The fleet had expected a battle. Instead, they had been given a lesson. And though no shot had been fired, the message echoed louder than any war could.